Hi everyone, it's Raina. So this video is if you have your sun in Virgo and your moon in Cancer. We're talking about the elements of earth and water, and they are compatible. These two signs form what is known as a sextile, and that is a compatible, like 60-degree angle. But I will say that to be an official sextile, they have to be within a certain degree span. So not all uh, people with this combination will actually have one. But to me, that's just semantics because it's still going to be harmonious based on the elements themselves. Now, I find this to be a very interesting combination because this is double feminine energy, which means that the person is more about being within themselves. You know, the feminine is more receptive, the masculine is more like projecting energy outwards. I don't know for the opposite word, an antonym for receptive. But anyway, what this can mean is that this has nothing to do with gender, obviously, but this is like a person who may be quite introverted in a sense. You have to look at the rising sign because that can change things very quickly. If you have fire or even air at your ascendant on your ascendant, so if your rising sign is Aries, Leo, or Sag, or Gemini, Libra, or Aquarius, you may at least give the appearance of being more outgoing. If you have earth or water at your ascendant, I would say almost unequivocally that you would be more introverted and we could just say downright shy. And that's fine. You know, it's somebody who is a very sensitive Cancer individual. That's why I think this is such an interesting combination, because we have a person with the sun in Earth, but ruled by Mercury, which is mental, cerebral, and then the moon sign is ruled by the moon, so that is uber emotional because the moon already represents our emotions, and then you get it in the sign that rules, um, that is ruled by the moon, then you're really talking about emotional. Water is emotional. So it's it's going to be somebody who, as a Virgo person who is used to being very analytical in their life, they're going to find that they have to make some kind of accommodations for their very emotional nature. So I want to start by talking about the sun and what it represents and how Virgo fits into this. So when people are Virgo sun signs, they approach life and they want to shine their light in a way that is very useful. So, whatever it is that they're doing, even if they were like a Reiki master, they'd be like, okay, well, this is going to help you, have more energy, and you're going to be able to do this and you're going to be able to do that. You're going to find your, Dharma and all of this stuff. Because Virgo rules the sixth house in astrology, which is all about our dharma, our purpose, our work, our service to others. Now, yes, I mean, when we say employment or work, you might be working in a big box um, outlet and you don't want to do that for the rest of your life necessarily. Maybe you do. Maybe that's, something that you really fit in very well with. But if you're not, if you're just like trying to pay the bills and you're working retail, you're working someplace just to have a job, that can be the sixth house too. But somebody who's a Virgo, in a sense, you could say it really doesn't matter where they work as long as they're being productive. That is what really drives Virgo people. And speaking of drive, because your sun is in Virgo, you may have Mars in Virgo, some of these personal planets, and that will enhance that desire to actually like be of service and do productive, constructive things. I feel that that is an absolute blessing to have that in your life, because if you come from a background of crazy shit that went down in your family of origin, I was going to say look to Neptune. If you have Neptune in the fourth house, that's a good starting place, or Neptune in the first. There's different things that we could look at, but that can be a saving grace where you are naturally organized, disciplined, and you have a natural desire to work and to be productive. And, sometimes people come from families of origin where their parents are not doing constructive things. It is what it is, it's true. And so sometimes the children are they still have that innate sense of that feels good to me to do something that is productive, not to sit around and do nothing and just to fritter away my time. I want to see the fruits of my labor. Okay. And but there's also an intellectual side to Virgo. It's very you're very, like I said, analytical, so you pay attention to details. That's something that is very much a part of Virgo. Sometimes to an extreme level, like an OCD level. This is really funny. I mean, this has nothing to do with anything except that the person that I might have been dealing with was a Virgo. I should have asked him, but I just bought a new bicycle a couple of months ago, and I I had these jacked up eyeglasses that I had just tried to, I kept getting eyeglass kits, and they would never work with my glasses. That the screws would always fall out. So I went on Amazon. I got this like massive amount of like different screws, like probably 1,000 different screws. And the only one that fit was one that would make the tip of the screw stick out from the top. And I was like, I don't care that this is happening, because it's like, who's going to notice this? And so when I went to get my bike, the man said, do you want me to, the screw is coming out. Do you want me to like, fix it for you or something like that? And it kind of like irked me because first of all, I didn't want people to see my glasses were so jacked up. But also, I have the moon in Virgo, and here is the deal is that the moon can be kind of the shadow side. So you can see some of those more shadow effects coming through the moon sign, which can be about being hard on yourself, being self-critical. But the perfectionistic streak can certainly present itself with the sun in Virgo. So you may notice details. The critical side, that kind of goes hand in hand with that, and it can be debilitating if it's taken to the extreme. So people with the sun in Virgo have to be very aware of how uh, analyzing things or critiquing things can cut them off from creativity, from actually doing what it is that they want to do. It's funny, I was just thinking this morning of analysis paralysis. So I can't say for sure how many Sun in Virgos experience this the way that I have, but I have found that you can, triumph over this by just taking that messy action. You may have heard that phrase being used, and not trying to get all your ducks in a row. Like everything has to be perfect before I venture out and try something new and do it. But you do like to do a good job. So that is admirable because you're not trying to be sloppy and, things like that. And that can serve you well in life because you're very thorough. And that comes from paying attention to details, I'm sure. The type of work that you may favor could have something to do with teaching. And I actually think this combination with the moon and Cancer is a natural for teaching, especially younger children, because of the mothering influence of the moon and Cancer. I'll get to that when I talk about the moon influence. But when I said mothering, I mean nurturing, because it can be male or female, obviously. And Virgo is not, to me, is not a touchy-feely sign. But when it's combined with the moon and Cancer, it's going to be much more sensitive than a typical Virgo person. And I think that can actually enhance your personality, or whatever you want to call it, the way that you behave, a lot, because you can have that, there's like this persnickety quality to Virgos, like a fussiness, and that again is that sort of, constantly rating things or evaluating them. And that, people can evaluate or analyze the joy out of life if they're not careful, and in terms of other people as well. And if you have Venus in Virgo along with the Sun in Virgo, then you have to be careful that you're not being too critical of other people when it comes to love, and you may use that as an excuse to kind of stay single. Forget that. Don't forget that the Hermit is connected to Virgo in the Tarot. Although, to be honest with you, I can't really. The only thing I can see why that would be the case is because of maybe the purity factor, the perfectionism. But anyway, with the moon in Cancer, there is a cautious nature. Cancer is the sign that rules the fourth house of home and family. So Cancer is a sign that is very protective, self-protective, and protective of others. That comes from that nurturing, that parental, but I would say the mother is the fourth house. And I feel it's like that motherly energy. But even a man who is this combination, actually, a man who has this combination is gold, because he will be very domestic in his way of being, and he may not be the kind of man that a woman will have to chase around and saying, when are you gonna, you're always going out, when are you gonna be at home? This could be a homebody type of a man, and he may embrace cooking, he may embrace maybe even clean. Yeah, definitely. With being a Virgo, you might be a clean freak. So cleaning, and so any woman would be lucky to have such a man, as long as he curbs both his critical nature as well as his overly maudlin, weepy, or whatever you call it. Not, I'm not saying, men shouldn't cry. I think that they should, but I'm talking about the kind of moodiness that this moon position can give to a person, because the moon represents also, besides emotions, it can represent changeability. And so here you have somebody whose sun sign is ruled by Mercury, which is about, mercurial, changeable. Virgo is a mutable sign, so that's changeable. And then you have the moon sign in, Cancer, which is ruled by the moon, and so it is very changeable. So a person with this moon sign can be like, I was going to use the word bipolar. But I don't like to use that word lightly, and I don't mean it like somebody who is like, just emotionally unstable, but somebody who can change their emotions rapidly, going through the changes. Yes, definitely, I think that this is true. And also, I feel that this can apply to opinions as well. I was just reading something online that was connected to Vedic astrology, and they were saying that um, that in Vedic astrology, the moon is considered the memory or the mind or something like that. And I was like, wow, that's amazing, because I have been saying the same thing recently, that it's like a chicken and egg syndrome between the influence of the moon and Mercury, because I feel like our emotions are triggered by memories. And I also feel that our thoughts are affected by our emotions. So I feel like at the very least they work in tandem. But I do feel that a person who has this combination may exasperate other people sometimes, because you might change your opinion on things, or your feelings, if you want to call it that, about something very, easily. And people may find it hard to kind of pin you down in terms of what you really believe in or what you feel, because it can be subject to change. And so when people have the moon in Cancer, they are very nostalgic, okay? And this is also because the fourth house that Cancer rules in astrology is about the past, and it's about childhood. So if somebody is very unhealed, if there's other things, now I would say you'd have to look at other influences that are going on in the person's chart, in the person's life, or their past. They might tend to live in the past. So let's say that this combination person um, was abused growing up in some way, and it could be, let's say it was verbal abuse, and they were demeaned in some way, and they have low self-esteem, they have like an insecurity within themselves, they can really stay stuck in that past emotion, because it's constantly alive for them. And the thing that kind of adds to this, even though I said these two signs are harmonious, because the nature of Virgo is to be critical, and even sometimes self critical, that can mean that the person takes in that criticism, believes it, and then they have this, lack of self esteem, and they may be too hard on themselves. They expect perfection from themselves. So it's super important that people with this combination, check in with themselves to see where they're at, in terms of their sense of self love and self worth. Because with the moon in Cancer, sometimes a person can feel emotionally needy if other factors support it. And Cancer is a cardinal sign. So it's a very strange, in a way, Cancer is a very strange sign, because it's a water sign, but it's also a cardinal sign. So cardinal signs can be kind of aggressive sometimes. A Cancer person who feels like they are not getting the love that they need, they can come on very strong about that. And that can be problematic in the sense that they may be actually going to push somebody away, because they are so demanding of somebody else to kind of um, fill their cup. And it may be a situation with the sun in Virgo that the person has, I mean, again, look at the rising sign too, but that the person may um, not really be forthcoming about that, and maybe even a little bit not aware of how much they need it until they're involved in a relationship where they feel very vulnerable and it's like a self-protective thing. So learning, especially if somebody was emotionally deprived. I mentioned being abused, but it could simply be neglected, like, maybe having parents that were working all the time and had to fend for yourself, or um having, coming from a big family and not being personally nurtured because there were just so many kids. There's so many things where it might not be malicious, but it still may have felt neglectful. And so the person with this combination, they have to like take responsibility as an adult for meeting their own emotional needs and not expecting somebody else to do that. On the other hand, also choosing wisely with a partner, making sure that you're with somebody who is sensitive enough, because you're going to need somebody who isn't going to run roughshod over you and say, gosh, are you, you need to get over yourself. Why are you so, why are you so sensitive? And kind of like trying to shame the person for their emotions. And this can be wonderful for somebody maybe who is, I don't like to use the word dietitian, because if, in my opinion, if they are indoctrinated in like this kind of a mainstream version, this is not how I see Virgo. I always say that I see Virgo as kind of the 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 vegetarian or vegan, raw vegan, alternative kind of health, because I think Virgo can be the herbalist, as well, the natural, in other words. And so the person who is really, because when you have the moon in Cancer, you're going to be very intuitive about life itself, and you could tune into clients and be able to say, okay, this is what you need. Because the fourth house that Cancer rules can be about nourishment too. I think it's about nourishment, versus the second house can be foodstuffs, but the fourth house can be feeling that sense of nourishment or nurturing yourself through food. So this is a great combination for both. The sixth house that Virgo rules can be about diet. And so, uh, you know, anything to do with health, which, by the way, that reminds me, because Virgo is connected to health, and because Cancer is can be connected to being a hypochondriac. I'm not saying that all Cancer people would be like this, but with the moon, I feel like the shadow side can come out, and your fears about your health can take over. So you have to be very careful about how you approach the area of health, so that you're not coming from a fear-based place. But I feel like this combination could be great for anything in the health field. And I feel like earth signs have an innate understanding of things of a material nature, including the body itself. And as I stated, teaching with the moon in Cancer, there can be a strong desire to be a parent, a mother, you could say. Even that's what I was saying, what I was trying to say with this combination of male, that you may be like, you always want to give, everybody a sweater, you want to feed them, you want to just take care of them. And it's so wonderful to see when men do this as well, because we expect that from women, but it's nice to see men do it as well. And so this combination as a father could be a father who is actually more, better suited to be a stay-at-home parent than his partner. And obviously I'm using heterosexual examples here because I'm trying to, contrast between um, these traditional roles, but obviously it will work for any two people. So, um, yeah, I think that this is a very practical combination, very sensible. And so anything of this world, I think, and I'm talking about the material world with earth and water, which are both elements of the material world. I think that you are a natural for just being well suited for matters connected with that. So even like with money, this combination I think would be more on the frugal side. I think that, I always associate Virgo with minimalism. And I don't see Virgo as a very ostentatious sign unless you have inner planets in Leo, which is an adjacent sign. So if you have Mars in Leo, you may like to go out, dressed to the nines, making a big show of things, or Venus, whining and dining your significant other, buying them expensive gifts, and maybe just having a little bit of that. And your rising sign, look at that too, because that could give you that need to show off in a certain way. But in general, I think this combination is very good at saving money and managing your finances. I'm always thinking now in terms of the tarot, and I was thinking of the Four of Pentacles. But in any case, in terms of love, I do think that this would be a combination of somebody that would naturally want to raise a family. And now you might be somebody who marries late, because I think Virgo, I just get that vibe. I don't know if there's anything to back it up with. Again, I'm thinking of the Hermit, but I do think that Virgo, maybe because you would try to build a career or whatever, and then you figure, let's do things in order here. Let me, you know, build this foundation, and then I'll go and do that. Um, I do think this combination is, in and of itself, forgetting other influences, is humble, is what I call nondescript, which I mean is not attention seeking, is just kind of like very getting down to business, getting down to brass tacks, and doing what you need to do. Um, I feel like nature is really important for this combination. The earth element, that's a no brainer, but also when you have the moon in Cancer or any water sign, maybe being by water can be very healing for you. So, sitting at the banks of a river where you're grounding yourself, you're on the ground, and that covers your earth, and then you got the water going on. That's probably a very good place to be. Okay, that's what I have for you. I hope that this resonated. If you would like a private reading, the link is below. Take care. Bye.